Today we're going to be looking at JavaScript, which is a new language we're looking at that we're going to be using in web design to make things interactive. So we're going to look at what it is, as well as the two different events, the two main events anyway. Now JavaScript, it lets you make interactive or dynamic content. It interacts with your mouse on screen. If you click on things, or if you hover over something, things will start to change. Now this is a bit different from HTML and CSS. They're both known as scripting languages, because it just that's the term you use to describe something that just changes the look of something. Whereas JavaScript is actually closer to Python that we've been using to program with, where it does interactive things on your web page. Now we're not going to go too much into detail with this. It's just like I guess like a taster. You only need to know a little bit for Nat 5. There is lots more of it in higher, but for now it's just a tiny little bit, and you just need to be familiar with it. Now the two bits you need to be familiar with are these two events here: on mouse over and on mouse out. Now you can see an example of it here. You add it to a tag. So here's an image tag. This is something, I don't know if I've used this term before. This is called an element when it's a tag name. And then I've given it an ID as well. I've just called it picture. That'll make sense later, right? This actually looks really intimidating to begin with. Now, but you don't need to remember all of this off by heart. You just need to be, as far as we're concerned for Nat 5, you just need to be relatively aware of how on mouse over and on mouse out work, and use it a couple of times. You're never expected to remember all of this off by heart. But on mouse over is what we call an event, and it runs something called a function. I'll get to that in the next slide. The on mouse over, I mean, it kind of says it in the name. It's when your mouse hovers over this element. So in this case the element is an image, so when you hover over this image of the cardboard box, an event called showCat is going to run. You could also add an on mouse out, which means when you stop hovering over the image of the box, something else would happen. Now this example doesn't have that, but you could do that. So that's events. I keep saying it triggers a function. So a function is a piece of code that runs when the event is triggered. It's the other half of the equation, really. So name of the function, it's kind of obvious. Function showCat. Basically, this is a bit of a group of code. It actually looks a little bit like CSS actually, with like the curly brackets. And you don't need to remember all this off by heart. Some of the words might look a bit familiar. So you've got the dot source here. That's because it's to do with the image source there. But the important thing to note is, you see this get element by ID. It has to match up with whatever the ID of the element is. So by that I mean this says picture here, and this says picture here. So they need to match up so that they can kind of find each other, so they know they're within a set. And what this will do is it will say when they click on this, it will say go find showCat, go run that bit of code. And it goes and finds it. Now this is JavaScript, this whole thing, and it runs this, which is a complicated way of saying it changes the image to a picture of a cat in a box. Might make more sense of a full example. So here's how it would look. Notice it goes right where we write CSS as well. It has got, rather than just writing script for CSS, I know we did external last time, but you could also just write script. If you write script and then type, and you write this bit here, again, you don't need to remember that. That's going to be there for you. That's always going to be given to you, right? You can write in JavaScript, and here's the bit of code, and this just says when you hover over this image, go run this bit of code up there. And like I said, the IDs match. They both have to say picture. Now here's before the event is triggered, here's after the event is triggered. I know it's not the same cardboard box, but just bear with me. So when you hover over the picture here, the image will change to whatever you have written there. So it will change to catinbox.jpg, and as long as you've got an image called that, it will load it up. Now that'll make a lot more. It'll make a lot more sense with examples. So let's have a look. So here's task 1. I'm going to walk through how to do this step by step in a minute. I'm just going to shoot through them all first. The different tasks for this week. So hover over to reveal cat name. So I've made it so that if you hover over this, it will change to Brutus the cat. And then if you hover over the image, it will, there's a little bit of delay there, it will change the picture of the cat. Now if you hover out, nothing happens because I haven't added code to do that. So if you want to get it back to the default, you have to actually refresh the page, and then every time you hover over it, it goes back to that. One I have made it go back to default is this website here, pigs.com. This is task 2 for this lesson. So if you hover over the picture of the cute micro pig, there's the truth. It becomes giant and fat. But then if you want to live a lie, and you don't want to acknowledge that micro pigs don't exist, that they're a myth, then if you hover off of the image, it goes nice and small again, and then every time you hover back over it, it becomes huge and obese and pig-like again. Last task is color disco. Now I'm going to do this slowly, otherwise well, you'll see why. I don't want to, it's quite blinding, but I've done it so that if you hover over one of these bits of text, it will change the entire background color to that color. So if we go blue, everything becomes blue. If we go yellow, everything becomes yellow, and so on. And I've added one last bit here, which is kind of like an extension task, but you can kind of do like pop-ups. It's quite easy to do. Make your site look like a virus, and if you double click on this, it will give a message to the screen here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Like I said, you don't need to remember all of this off by heart, as long as you remember on mouse out and on mouse, on mouse out and on mouse over. That's the key bit here, and you have an understanding of how it loads, like they're connected together. But let's have a look at the tasks this week. So if we scroll down, National 4.5 Computing, scroll all the way down to 8.1 JavaScript, right? So let's have a look at the task. Okay, it's up here. Remember, you might have to press the preview button first here. Right now, I don't think the website does anything. No, nothing happens. Most of it's been given to you, right? But if you look at the task, you need to add the image tag. Give the ID a name of picture. So we go down to the image here, right? And we're going to write, see between these quotes, just write picture. Feel free to follow along. Also, when on mouse over triggers, call the show cat function. So we're going to write show cat. The capital matters, by the way, and don't forget the little brackets. Now, what this will say is it will jump up here to show cat, and then it will say get element by ID. Well, it's picture matches. Now it knows what's to change. All you have to, well, that's it actually. Yeah, that should be it working. Yep, that's it. It just changes the picture to the cat. Now if you try the same for the show name bit, add to h2 an ID name of cat name. So this h2, we've got to make the ID this time. You just write ID equals cat name. You can put it in quotes, I believe, yeah, but you don't have to. And then you go on mouse. Like, you might want to put it in quotes if you just wanted to match, because we're going to write cat name in a second there. It's up to you. On mouse over, equals show name. So this is going to run the show name code, and as I was just saying, you need to add cat name here. So see all those quotes here? If it makes it easier for you, feel free to add the quotes there. It'll work either way. So we'll run that. Brutus the cat, yeah, it changes. Just to confirm that if you do put quotes in, it should work. Let's refresh. Oh, let's run the page. Yeah, as you can see, it doesn't care if you put in quotes or not. It works. You might like that just to keep it similar. And that's how you do it. So task 2 might actually be easier in some ways. So we've got our 2 pigs, max pig and micro pig, and the task is you have to trigger the reveal pig function and the hide pig function. So let's have, yeah, so you just have to add the on mouse over equals reveal pig, and then you have to write additionally right next to it, you write on mouse out equals hide pig, and that's it. Oh, and the images, you need to add the images as well. I haven't done that, they're empty. But yeah, that's it from me. Hopefully this was helpful. Right, thank you for watching, bye.